Good evening, everybody. My name is Grim Reaper, and with me, as always,
Cynical Squid.
and this is last week of Epoch. We got a very special guest for you guys tonight, as you can see here on the screen. We've got Perry the Pig with us. How you doing, Perry?
All right, pleasure to be here.
So, how long have you been playing Last Epoch now?
I'm hitting refresh on this stream, trying to get it to show up. But
Okay.
we'll see. How long have I been playing Last Epoch? I've been playing Last Epoch for about 3 months now, with a little bit too much time than I'm happy to admit. But it's about 500 hours over the past 3 months.
Holy cow! You got almost as many hours as I got already.
I'm not happy about it, but the game's fun and I like playing it.
So,
I've been playing for about 3 months myself, and I'm 400 hours. So bad. Apparently, neither one of us have.
Fair enough.
So, out of your time so far in Last Epoch, what has been your favorite build that you've done so far?
Let's see if I can get this. There we go. There we go. Okay, I've got everything open now. Favorite build that I've done so far. Man, there was a build that you and I were just chatting about a moment ago, and I guess I'm gonna give it a call out because it seems like whenever I'm in someone else's Twitch chat or something, they bring this up because it's kind of like a meme. But we did a handful of different Doom oriented builds, and Doom is like this obscure ailment that has like 10 times the base damage of anything else in the last epoch, and we played it as a hungering souls focused lich, and we only scaled void damage over time. And then we had to like jump through all of these weird hoops and have exactly 3 minions at all times in order to like actually scale the damage up sufficiently. And it seemed like people really liked it because that's, a weird build that they hadn't really seen it before. So I like that. I think probably my favorite one so far.
Yeah, we were just talking about that because of the high corruption farm too, that you were doing with it too, to get all the gear for it. And next question that I have for you on that build itself, how long did it take you to actually get all of that put together to do that build?
Oh, the only reason that we tried that build at all is that on a previous character I had found an Apathy's Maw, which is like, the 100% chance to apply Doom on hit. You basically need that in order to play any kind of Doom build, or else you're just really playing a gimped version of it. But most of the builds that I play in general, I just like take them from like the absolute starting point in hardcore solo. But this build, because we had the Apathy's Maw ahead of time, and I didn't want to go ahead and grind a new one on a brand new like league start, we just did that in hardcore. So, like, I don't like. Do you call it hardcore perma or like hardcore trade or hardcore? Like, what do you call it?
I would call it just hardcore if it's like the regular hardcore, but if it's by yourself, where it's solo self found, it's usually hardcore solo self found.
Yeah, okay.
So
I'm still learning all the terminology and whatnot, but yeah. So we brought the axe over to hardcore perma and just like built the character up from there. But like to actually get the gear for any of these characters, I don't have like gear set aside. I've got gear that has like exalted, crit avoid on it, but I don't have a particular build in mind for it. It's just something that kind of sits in the stash, and if we actually end up playing a character in hardcore, we'll just yoink that, put it on, and make it work. But for the most part, everything is just like from scratch in hardcore solo.
okay. And before you started playing Last Epoch, what was the game that you played before that? Because I'm pretty sure you're an avid gamer.
Played a lot of Path of Exile. Path of Exile not in the best spot right now. There's a lot of discord amongst the community. Some people like what's going on. A lot of people don't like what's going on for various reasons in the latest patch. But so I have played a lot of Path of Exile. Started a couple of years ago. I have about 12,000 hours in that game. And I would always like bring people onto stream. I would like do like weird builds. I would do like build help. I would, try to build up community events and do like private leagues and stuff like that. And like that was a lot of fun. So when it comes to like starting a character in any kind of action RPG and like telling the story of like not just like here's the character, it's done, but like let's start the character and like the entire league from scratch, and then have like the journey is the destination. Like here's the gearing process, here's where stuff started to feel good, or here's like where the skill kind of fell off, but it feels good once you get this thing, and like here's how it progresses from there. That's like the part of action RPGs that I like, and it's why my brain likes it when I end up treating an action RPG kind of like a roguelike, where I start over in hardcore solo every single time with like 0 guardians, no stabilities, no gold, no nothing. So it's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's also fun. I like it.
Awesome. So when you get done with a build, do you usually have another build already like lined up, or do you like take a break a little bit and then decide on what your next build is going to be after you're done with one?
Thankfully, I've got a backlog of builds that I want to play, which is great, right?
Okay.
Like you wouldn't want to play a game like Last Epoch and be like, I don't know what to play anymore. But so it's actually funny. I've been watching a couple other Last Epoch streamers as well, and like there's always like 5 people streaming. So like there's never that many options because like it's an early access game. There's not many people streaming the game, but you just like jump in there and like this person used to play Diablo, this person used to play Path of Exile, something like that. And it seems like an opinion that I've heard a couple times over from people who are like new to streaming Last Epoch or like they're just checking out the build for the first time is that their first character wasn't a train wreck. So they're worried that the game's too easy. And I feel like these people have been hurt. You know, I'm not gonna name names. I'm not gonna say like which video game hurt them. But I feel like these people are like, this game, my first character, I enjoyed it. I'm not sure this game is good. But thankfully I've got a lot of builds that I still want to try. The one that I'm working on right now is my first dexterity stacking build because Morning Frost is a sweet pair of boots. And we're like actually next patch we're gonna get like some int stacking stuff, which I think will be interesting as well. But I've never done dex stacking, so I'm doing like a dex stacking crit hammer forge guard character because I think it'll be good. So we'll see. But
That
yeah,
sounds
lots
interesting.
of build ideas to explore with.
Nice. Cynical, you got any questions you want to ask Mr. Perry?
So you play strictly hardcore.
I do, yep.
Okay, and so you mentioned like the roguelike element where you basically get to like restart. Is that pretty much the biggest draw to you, or like what drew you to playing hardcore? Maybe not necessarily Last Epoch, the games you played previously, where I assumed you.
It's a bad assumption to make. So in Path of Exile, which is like, you know, the primary game that I played before this, I played exclusively softcore SSF, which it's not quite solo because you can have like a persistent stash between your own characters in softcore SSF, but it's basically the same. Most people have played Path of Exile at this point. But I played softcore in Path of Exile because I can count on myself to try to make a character that doesn't die. And like one of the memes that I have in chat, or like one of the jokes that I make over and over, is like, well, dying sucks. It's like dying is the boring part of the game. I don't like that. I don't look forward to it. I feel bad when my character dies. So even in Path of Exile, when I'm playing in softcore, I don't want my character to die. I'm not trying to use cast on death portal. I'm not trying to take all 6 portals to go into my map. And you know, if my character dies 5 or 10 or 15 times, you know, to some people that's an incredibly low amount of deaths. But to me, it's like, okay, time to make a new character because that's the kind of character that I want to play, right? That's the kind of experience that I want to have. So the reason I don't play hardcore in Path of Exile is like, it's Path of Exile. Yeah, your deaths, even if it's only like 1 out of every 20 deaths in Path of Exile that isn't in your control, and the other 19 are, that one's going to feel really bad. And it's rough. I don't like it. So why am I playing hardcore in Last Epoch? Because your deaths aren't out of your control. I've had a couple deaths where it's like weird hitboxes or like some like damage happened before the animation looked like it happened, but like those are so few and far between in Last Epoch. It's like not really a big deal. But I don't know, in Last Epoch it feels fun. It feels like you get to build your character and worry about defenses and worry about resistances, but if you have, you know, 74 res instead of 75 res, it doesn't mean you're going to get one shot. It just means you have slightly less res. It's fine.
Awesome. So when you were playing Path of Exile, though, you said you didn't play hardcore, so you played solo self-found. What made you transition into playing hardcore, though, in Last Epoch?
I don't know. That's a good question. What made me play it? I felt like I could. I felt like and I felt like it was no big deal.
Okay.
There's no long answer to it.
Okay, I figured it'd be something more along the lines of how Path of Exile tends to be a little bit more rippy at the start of a league, and they don't really get everything hashed out till about the middle of the league with like the instant death mechanics that they seem to have bugging their game at the start of every league.
No, I feel like, hardcore is fun. It's nice to feel emotionally invested in your character and not feel cheated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like this is kind of a weird example, but like let's say you have 20 girlfriends, right? And like not at the same time. I do not condone that. These are sequential and non-overlapping. Stop laughing. So okay, let's say you have 20 sequential and non-overlapping girls, and like one of them cheats on you. You feel terrible about that, right? It's
Yeah.
like you never want any part of that again, right? But like it's gonna sit with you no matter what. And in Last Epoch, I don't really have that same feeling. It's like, I can put myself out there. I can go on another date. I'm ready to be hurt again, because I'm the one in control. It feels good.
Oh man. That is the best analogy I've ever heard on our podcast so far.
I'm never going to be repeating it, so you can have that one if you want.
Excellent. So, speaking of ripping early, so we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show before we got live. So I also played in the Vision tournament this weekend. Did not do as good as you. You're also way more resilient than I am, because after my second death, I was like, man, I don't want to have anything to do with this. My second death didn't come near as early as yours did.
Well, I wasn't as invested in my second character because I only played it for about 3 minutes. So we died and then we just keep going, right?
Yeah. I actually really enjoyed the league this weekend, not having lightning blast. Like, I didn't realize how much of a crutch I was using that as to level as a mage. Then I couldn't use it and was just like, oh no, I have to use auto attacks and fireballs. Oh, this is bad.
Yeah, I was talking to Mao Mao X, and he and I were saying, like, level 1, 2, and 3, instead of using fireball as a mage because lightning blast is banned, you should probably just be auto attacking. Just basic attack, hit him over the head with the scepter. It does more damage. It hits in an AoE, so that's pretty good. Do you mind? Can I pause for a second?
Yeah.
I know I've invited some people from my Twitch chat over as well to be watching this. Not everybody knows what the Vision GL tournament is. I'm sure
we
like
always cover that every single week. We always tell people about the Vision tournament and about the placements for it. So
Okay.
what were you about to say after that? Because I'm sorry to cut you off, Ferry, but I was going to say we do cover the Vision GL tournament. We always put the link in the description too for Vision GL tournaments and the Discord for people too. So
yeah,
not sure if you're okay.
I mean,
all right.
I've had people pop in from like my previous Path of Exile audiences, and they kind of like wonder what's going on. So Path of Exile has like a big like racing scene, or at least they used to a long time ago. And there's always people who are just like they're looking for some kind of thing to race in, and it's nice that even though this game's in early access, there's still people like you two and people like Vision GL, people like Lizard, people like Mao, people like who want to even if this game's in early access, have that kind of racing community go on every single weekend. And like, that's sweet. Like, this is the first one that I participated in that ended today. And like, it's a lot of fun. I'm going to do it again.
And you placed what, 4th place in the tournament overall?
I placed 3rd place, I think. Wait, 1, 2, 3. No, I played 4th place because Tunk beat me.
Yes.
And I was 1 wave ahead of Lone Star.
One?
Totally chef's kiss, yes.
Jeez.
Well, I know Mao Mao was first with 228 waves this week in Vision GL's tournament, and Lizard was second with 221 waves, and then Tunk was third with 202.
Yeah.
So what wave were you at on there?
I was trying to get to. So my own goal for myself was to get to 150 because like I don't do arena virtually ever. So like I don't know anything about it. I don't know strategy or anything. So we beat 150. We got up to 185 before I got 2-shot by, I think his name is Desecrated Flesh, the guy who spins in a circle with the big rock. So he just like absolutely bonked me. I could have played it better, could have done this and that, but whatever. But Lone Star was in chat and he had just posted 184. And he's like, please die, please die, please die, please die. But it turned out well for me. It was great.
So he had 184, you had 185 then.
Yup.
Awesome. That is hilarious that he's sitting there in your chat telling you please die because he doesn't want you to beat him out.
But he's still top 5. So I think how it works is like the 5 people from 1 week get to help decide what the picks and bans are for the next week. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's how they've changed it to be because I've never placed in the top 5 or even top anything on the tournaments yet.
It's okay.
So, well, this is your first time getting to place it, so you'll get to do the picking, I think, next week. So you'll get to ban something probably. So that'll be interesting to see what you decide to ban. What is next week's going to be? Does anybody have an idea of what next week's?
Next week is Hardcore Rogue.
Hardcore Rogue. Ooh, I might have to stop pushing in Diablo 3 for a bit and stop going for that #1 Frenzy Bar spot and go play in the Rogue tournament. Then
I was about to say, Grim, that's
my favorite class.
That's your wheelhouse right there, buddy.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Your time has come.
Well, it depends on what they ban, man. Because last time we played Rogue, what was it? It was banned, and it was a softcore tournament. Oh, they banned Synchronized Strike. They banned. Oh man, I can't even remember now. I remember Synchronized Strike was banned, which is what I was going to take because you have to have that to create the shadows to be able to do the throwing star build, and I was going to do Poison Shurikens. And they took and banned out Synchronizing Strike, and I was like, oh man, without the ability to make the extra shadows, I'm going to be kind of SOL on this. So I was like trying to figure out which build I was going to do last time, but it's always different each week whenever they do the picks and bans. And you know, there's been a couple of times where they ban stuff out. I'm very salty whenever it's like I already have a pre-plan in my head of what I'm gonna play, and then like I get into Vision's stream and they've banned out like every single thing that I was thinking of, and then I'm sitting there stuck, and I'm like, what am I gonna play? None of the rest of the skills that I know of really work that well, or I haven't got experience playing them.
So is that a good thing when you feel that way, or is that a bad thing when you feel that way?
Well, it's a bad thing for me because I have a very short, explosive temperament. So, like, I will get raging mad sometimes, and it's one of those things.
Not the answer I was expecting.
Yeah, I get raging pissed, man. Like, it is one of those moments where I go from 0 to 100% pissed off, and then I got to learn sometimes to just curve my tongue and not say anything and just wait and just mellow out and just roll with the punches because you know it's one of those things where it does actually provide new content throughout the community for different people to try new things and to try new builds and to try to get new ways to make things work. So it is in a sense a good way to build creativity, but whenever you've got a pre-plan and then somebody just takes a dump all over it, it just really hurts your heart. It just wrecks you right then and there.
Man, I feel like there's some kind of parallel between how you feel and Path of Exile. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like there's something there.
I mean, I never played hardcore Path of Exile unless I played Totems builds. Because I knew with Totems builds, I could run around, drop them, and I was safe. I didn't have to worry about dying. And I could always make it all the way up to Uber Elder on a Totems build. So I was fine with playing Totems. So I would always play Totems in a hardcore if I played anything hardcore. But for the most part, whenever I played Path of Exile, it was softcore plays, man. Because I liked being able to be like, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's just run back to the boss and die again and try again. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try again. So, but hardcore, man, I was strictly Totems build. And I was actually thinking about playing Path of Exile this league too, but I was going to try some of the new Totems stuff that they had. Some of the Totems builds looked absolutely amazing. But then I got stuck playing Last Epoch and said, forget that league after I heard everybody that there was a bunch of streamers from that community I talked to, and a lot of them were complaining at the beginning of the league about how bad it was. And I've come to the realization that out of that community, there's a couple of people that I will actually talk to because they not only do they give you good feedback back, but they actually rational out their feedback. One of them is Art Crusader. I've had conversations with him, and he very much rationalizes why things work a certain way and will explain them in great detail to you. So I very much like talking to Art. And then the other person is Catmaster OP. I like Catmaster OP, and I like the group of guys that hang out with him. He hangs out with Valor Mage and Tanky. And all of those individuals right there, they all really think things through before they decide whether something's bad or if it's good or not. So, and it just offers a different perspective. It's the same thing with the Last Epoch community. Like, if I'm really feeling like out of place on something, I will talk to either Boardman21 or I will talk to you, Perry. I'll come to your stream and talk to you, or I'll talk to Vision GL or Lizard IRL. Like, Lizard IRL actually helped me out with one of my Alkalite builds. My Alkalite build was absolutely terrible. 1,300 hit points, was not surviving very well. Talked to Lizard, looked at some of his idols and stuff. Now it's sitting at almost 2,200 HP, and it's blowing through empowered monoliths without empowered blessings and doing just fine through them. I've been farming Haorot for like the past 2 weeks. No armor blessing that I've been looking for, though, so I've been kind of upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, good choices on the Path of Exile people. Yeah, it's games like this. I feel like action RPGs really appeal to you if you are someone who like enjoys homework or enjoys the details, enjoys like wouldn't be afraid of setting up an Excel document to like do your own work in case there's no external tool to do. So yeah, I mean, bouncing ideas off people is like one of the reasons why like live interactive entertainment like streaming works really well for action RPGs, right? Like you just
Yep.
need one person to bounce an idea off of, and it's hard to do it on a forum, and it's hard to do it on YouTube, and some people like that, but other people like this too.
Exactly. So, what are your plans for this coming up week, Perry? I have to ask, what build are we going to get to see on your stream this week?
What are we plans for this week?
Yeah,
So
I always ask people what they're
I
working
wanted
on.
I wanted to play a build, and I've been cautioned against playing it. So there's one build that I wanted to play that I was cautioned against. One build that I'm playing right now, and then I guess like later on this week, there's going to be the next weekend sprint that Vision GL will put on. So we're gonna have like 3 things going on this week. The first one that I've been cautioned against is a new unique item. It's a build around for a new unique item that isn't out yet. So I've already built 2 of these characters at this point, and I wanted to start building the 3rd character so that I would have it ready for when the unique comes out. So anyone who's been in my stream knows that I'm totally psyched for Salt the Wound, which is a new unique pair of gloves that says it has damage over time, it has crit multi on it, I think it has crit chance as the base type, and then it says, most importantly, a portion of your critical strike multiplier is converted to bleed effect, and then a different portion of your critical strike multiplier is converted to your poison effect, which is just like super interesting to me. It gives you like an absolutely like new dimension of scaling all these builds that don't otherwise have like poison effect or bleed effect. And that's like the base damage and like the poison res penalty that poison res has on it, or that poison has on it. So we had been planning to build 3 different characters. I have a bleed hammered in ready to go. I have a a poison lich ready to go as well. And then I wanted to start building a puncture bow marksman that I think would use that kind of stuff really well as well. So
With Salt the Wound?
yeah, Salt the Wound is so cool. I can't wait to have it.
Wait a minute. I have to ask this because this popped in my head. Are you going to be using puncture with the bleed stacks fall off to where it sucks the bleed stacks off and causes the instantaneous damage at the end?
I was planning on it. Well, what do you know?
Okay. I was just thinking because you talked about Salt the Wound and how they increase the effect, and I was thinking, wonder if that increases the effect whenever the stacks get taken off. It increases the effect of the damage at the end of it.
Probably. I don't know. I hope so.
I was about to say he's going to find out.
Have to tune in. Well, I'm going to have to tune into his stream now just to find out, to see how it's working out if he does that.
Listen, I mean, I think so, but I've played enough, Path of Exile to know that I think and what actually happens are just like 2 totally different things.
Well, it's the same with Last Epoch. There's a lot of stuff where like I had this whole entire thing in my head of like how ARPGs work coming into Last Epoch again since coming back to it. And a lot of things in Last Epoch do not work like they work in Path of Exile. So you have to be very specific on wording whenever you're reading stuff. Because if you miss just one little word in how a skill works, it changes the way the whole skill works entirely. And there have been times where I've made a build and then I'm like, man, this build should be working, but it's crappy. Like one of my meme builds that everybody makes fun of me for is my Infernal Shade build, because I've done Infernal Shade as a main DPS, and Infernal Shade is just absolutely crap terrible right now at this present point in the game for a main DPS skill. Maybe that'll change when Warlock comes out. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it will change. But that's one of those things where it just didn't work out as good as I thought it would. I mean, I had put it on the minions to where when the minions exploded, it put the dots up and the dots would go all over everything, and it just didn't turn out that great. It was terrible.
All right, so when I have a meme minion build, I'll come to you and ask questions about it. Before we get too far away, I mentioned 3 different builds. So I said like the salt the wound stuff is what I'm interested in. But I'm putting that aside because I've already done 2 of them and I don't want to do a 3rd one. The second one is what we're currently working on, which is a deck stacking crit forge guard hammer throw build, which
Ooh.
the passive of being a forge guard is going to give us like tons of armor, block, defense, stuff like that. And then we're scaling up like dexterity, which is cold damage to attacks, which I think is going to be like way more cold damage to attacks than you can normally get on hammer throw. So I think it's going to scale really well. And then there's like the crit stuff that the forge guard gets naturally. And then whatever's happening on Friday with Rogue, I don't know, like maybe Dash is going to be banned. Maybe Hail of Arrows is going to be banned. Maybe a required skill will be like Acid Flask. I don't know. But whatever happens on Friday, we'll be doing that too.
Perry, you should ban Dash just to make everybody mad.
The issue with that is that participation in the tournament is non-mandatory. So no one's going to play. They're just going to go take vacation or something.
Yeah, it would be like a new record low for signups for the Vision tournament because we banned the 1 movement skill.
It would still be funny to see, though. It's like, these are your bans for this week. Detonating Arrow, Hell of Arrows, Dash, and then probably something like what? Synchronizing Strike. Yep. The other skill that makes the melee builds work really, really well.
I've heard that one of the past Vision GL tournaments did really well with Cinder Strike. So maybe we just like put that up there as well for the strawberry on top.
That would actually be interesting to do a Cinder Strike build. Oh, somebody just told me in chat movement skills can't be banned. So there goes the whole idea of banning Dash. So
all right, I guess you guys get Dash. Look, I'm just mad that we got to sit in a hardcore tournament, and I was mad excited, and they were like, yeah, we banned Warpath. I was like, oh, cool. So, you know, the like 1 skill that I'm good at building around in the entire game. Great.
Would you like to segue to talking about Warpath?
I would love to segue to talking about Warpath.
I don't know if you saw this. We got some spicy information today from the developers on Warpath. Ooh. You see this?
Oh, no, I did not see this yet.
Live reaction looking to Warpath stuff.
Yes, please.
Let me post this in general chat real quick. I was told by Grim. Grim said we're going to talk about my stream. We're going to talk about the tournament. We're going to talk about like skills and Path of Exile, like what I've done in the past, and we're going to talk about whatever the devs released this week. So I was like, you know, making sure that I was up to date as much as possible.
I got it pulled up on my stream now.
Yes, so this is a Warpath overhaul that they just announced.
Awesome. That was 6 hours ago. No wonder I didn't see about this.
I didn't see it. I was busy playing WoW, I'll be honest.
Yeah, they're making a new branch for void damage synergy. They're making a branch for like fire damage synergy as well, which makes me think about Volcanus. They have something that I think is really cool in this is like how do you take a skill that's like kind of boring, right? With like Warpath, you spin and then you move and you dodge stuff and you're constantly taking damage and it's not that interesting. So with like Whirlwind or Cyclone or Warpath, whatever you want to call it across these video games in the action RPG genre, they always tend to be like the best skill because like they scale well, you're defensive, you get to use things like Wings of Argentus. In Path of Exile, you get to be stun immune, or at least you get to have like a low mana cost in your skill. And in Diablo, whatever it was there. I never played Diablo. But so Chris Wilson is the lead dev for Path of Exile. And like I'm sure you guys all know this. But he's gone on the record a couple times talking about like we don't want to make Cyclone too good, either in terms of like quality of life or damage or XYZ. because if it ever becomes like slightly above average, it's just going to be like the go-to skill for anything. So that's kind of what you see right now in Path of Exile meta, which is like still, even in this current patch in PoE, it's used all the time for cast on crit, and people still use it for damage, right? So once upon a time in Path of Exile, Cyclone, you only traveled in a straight line, and you couldn't like maneuver left and right. You couldn't change your trajectory while you were channeling it, and it was super clunky. People complained all the time. They're like, Chris Wilson, why don't you change this? And the answer was, if we make it too good, you're going to enjoy it. So the question is like, how do you take a skill like this and like make it interesting? So in these notes, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a big node there called Giant Splitter. And like this is great. This reminds me of how resistances are done in Last Epoch. It reminds me of like how block is done in Last Epoch. It's like, how do you take these things that are kind of boring and they're kind of set in stone, and then how do you just like how do you just make it a little bit more interesting? So this Giant Splitter node, it says after spinning for at least 2 seconds, when you stop, it'll have like a big slash that goes at the end. So it's like a totally new playstyle. Instead of just holding down the right click constantly, all of a sudden you're rewarded with presumably a big damage multiplier. You're rewarded for like holding down for 2 seconds, let go. Hold down for 2 seconds, let go. It's like, that's great.
I also see that it says down here on the bottom too, slash after warpath, maximum duration benefit is 5 seconds.
Yeah, it deals more damage for each time you've been channeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. And like increased global spell damage, like spell damage, more Volcanus, more cast on hit stuff. There's the Echo Knight stuff here that like leaves copies of yourself behind you as you're spinning. Like this stuff looks really good. I like this a lot. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm very excited for this. I love Warpath. I love Whirlwind. I love Cyclone. What if it's a spin to win skill in an ARPG? Your boy is trying to play it. So and like I know
circles are busted. Circles are totally busted.
Exactly. And like I know that Warpath's like a skill they've been meaning to overhaul and work on. So like seeing this, I'm very excited here because my favorite Sentinel mastery is the Void Knight. Now I have an actual like legitimate dedicated void damage Warpath tree that I can go into. I cannot wait for these changes. I cannot wait to try them out, see like, what we can do. Because now I'm incentivized to use Hollow Blade and stuff now for like my spin to win.
Yeah, awesome.
This looks busted with the Echo Knight node because they got a little caption on here for it. It's showing the guy being left behind spinning in place for 2 seconds. But the one that's interesting to me is this one right here, the Path of Heavens. While spinning, you have an increased spell damage.
Yeah.
This is gonna.
I mean, sign me up. All the builds that I've liked most in Last Epoch, aside from the meme Doom scaling builds, because I love those. But the builds that I've been having a lot of fun with are like trigger builds, like do this while triggering that, chance to do this on hit, chance to cast Icicle on bow cast, like all these things. Like that's what I've really been enjoying the most.
Yeah, absolutely, and like I feel like that's where like action RPGs especially can like get their. You get to take a skill that allows you to inadvertently take another skill without having to invest points into. So good, and it allows for a ton of creativity and allows for like the player themselves to have individual in the build instead of Path of Exile. My biggest complaint with Path of Exile was always if you truly wanted to push things at end game, you basically had to find a cookie cutter build that was already good and follow it. Sort of genius level person that actually understood the Path of Exile skill tree.
Very much true.
And like Last Epoch doesn't have that problem so far because like every build that I've taken up to empowered monos has at least been able to like get through them. Maybe not super easy to the point where I'm like, wow, I should keep playing this build, but like they're still viable and I can still like play the game. I haven't bricked a character yet in Last. I've bricked plenty of characters in PoE.
What does all content viable mean to you in Last Epoch?
All content viable to me for Last Epoch would imply that if we're talking about from like specific of like if you say a build is all content viable, means you can farm even up into empowereds pretty easily without having any real issues, and your issues are going to come once you get high corruption.
Is that
Farm.
like 120, 150,
I'd say
300?
I'd say like 120 probably. It empowers you're going to start at 100.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, all that would be basically clearing all current content. Maybe not corruption farming, not doing corruption farm because that's more of like super late end game. And there may be some builds that might struggle a little bit with that. There might be other builds that are more viable for doing that specifically for high corruption farming. But all build viable to me would basically mean you should be able to get through the regular echoes. You should be able to get through the empowered echoes. Now that is also dependent on player skill too, to some extent, because some players may not understand a game as well as others, or they may not have their build put together correctly as far as like their defense, things like that. So for some players, there's going to be a little bit of a skill gap there. But somebody once they learn how to play the game and they understand it, I would say that pretty much every single build in the game you can take and go all the way up through empowereds with it, no problem. Because I've never had a problem with empowereds, and let's be honest, I'm not the best player in the world. So being able to do all the content in the game with all the builds that I've put together, I've even done it with the Infernal Shade. I've farmed the Empowered with the Infernal Shade build. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's a crap build. It's not going to be able to go anywhere. You're not going to be able to do Empowered with it. I still did Empowered with it. Is it quick? No, it's not quick. It's not like Mau Mau's Lich where he just runs through and crits everything and the whole screen blows up. No, it takes me about 20 minutes to kill the first, guy that I see. But after about 2.5 hours in the first echo, I've made it through. But skill wise, I've kept myself alive throughout the whole entire time while fighting all these different things. So
I'm taking notes on what not to play. Hold on. What was the name of that skill? It was called
Infernal Shade.
All right, gotcha.
If you're gonna play it, use it as a minion buff. It is ridiculously OP if you use it on your minions. It is not good for a damage skill right now. But putting it on minions, your minions fly around like it's like a steroid form. Okay, they go from being just regular minions to being like the best way to put it is. Do you ever watch South Park, Perry?
Sure.
Did you ever see the episode where he's like, Jimmy? That's how they go. Okay? Their minions go from Jimmy.
Dread Shade? Is it Dread Shade or Infernal Shade that's getting buffed next patch?
Dread Shade, I believe, is getting nerfed.
Okay.
It should be getting a little bit of a nerf. I think it has something to do with that whole taunt mechanic to it because of how busted the taunt is.
I call this a buff. So they're nerfing how strong it is so that it doesn't feel like an obligatory part of your build. And then they're making it better for persistent minions instead of temporary minions, right? That was the change?
I think so,
yeah. Something like that.
So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's for like the race so that you can put it up on the race and it doesn't like immediately kill your wraith, but at the same time you get a little bit of use out of it too. I think they are also changing the scaling on how much damage it does to the minions as well. So that'll be a good little change.
Yeah.
It's cool that when I ask you like what does all content viable mean, the answer that you've given me is basically what I say as well. It's about like 120, 125 corruption. You can do everything in empowered monoliths. And like the scaling factor is like, okay, well, if you want to go beyond that, you need a good build. If you want to do like 300, especially in hardcore, holy crap. But like if you want to do 300 even in softcore, you need like a good build. You can't just willy-nilly put something together. But the distinguishing factor at that point is like, well, how comfortable are you? How much of a pain is it, navigating how many echo modifiers you have? Like how many enemies have life, how many of those can your build deal with while you're navigating around your map? And then like how quickly do you do stuff, right? So like a Lich, like Mao's build, just like walk through everything. It's easy as cake. But maybe for these other like clunkier builds, it takes like some more time. But you can still do it, which is nice. I like that. It's a good place for like the relative strength of like a strong build and a weak build. Like you can still play the game, but you're gonna be punished because you gotta worry more.
Or in my case, it just takes you an hour to kill the first mob you run into.
You know, you like that, so that's good.
You know,
Yeah, and I stay
fine.
fine with that. I stay out of harm's way. I make sure all my minions do the work. It might take them a while to do it, but they get it done.
Good.
So doesn't bother me in the least bit. If you've ever seen me play the Infernal Shade build, it takes me a while to get through one empowered echo. Like it literally would take me about 20 to 30 minutes for one. Whenever I watch some of these other people's builds, they're like flying through in 2 minutes. They're just like zipping around the screen. You get to the end of it, they kill the little boss guy or whatever they got to do, seal whatever one it is. And then afterwards, they're like, all right, cool, we got our next one. Let's go to the next one. Meanwhile, I'm still back there in the back of the bus, killing the first mob. It's just how it is with that build. The build was terrible, but I got through stuff
with your one-handed mace, just like auto attack.
No, I was smart enough not to get within arm's reach of the mobs because I knew that I was squishy. So if I got hit, I was dead. The run was over. So, and I didn't want to put in no hour and a half for one echo just to die because I got too close to a mob.
That's true. So we talked about the Vision GL tournament a little bit. So you went Spellblade for your match, correct?
I did, yeah.
All right. So most of the people at the top went Sorcerer. What caused you to choose Spellblade?
Do you know who Timmy, Johnny, and Spike are?
Yes, I play MTG.
Good. And then Grim, do you know who Timmy, Johnny, and Spike are?
No, I don't.
All right, you are one of the lucky 10,000 today who gets to learn about Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. So back in the early days of Magic the Gathering, before they had, digital only cards with God, the new cards, they're so cool. Okay, we'll talk about that later off stream.
I was about to say we can talk about that off stream. You don't want to get me into that conversation right now.
I like having a fellow Magic player here. All right, so in the early days of Magic the Gathering, it's like late 90s, right? They in order to continue designing their cards, they had
put corners on them?
What?
To put corners on them?
Yeah. They came up with psychographic profiles to describe the kind of people who play their games, right? So like some people play the game by doing this, some people play the game, and like how do you win a game, right? So like, do you win a game by literally winning? Okay, good. Like that's a category that they're going to call spike. That's someone who just they want to win the game and they want their opponent to lose the game, right? And like it's a zero-sum game and they're going to win it. Then the two other categories are a little bit more interesting because like they're less obvious. So Timmy is the OG psychographic profile for somebody who likes to do something big. So Timmy likes big green monsters. They want to put like a 10/10, vanilla dinosaur green monster into play, and they just want to hit somebody with it. And that's how they get joy, and that's how they win the game, right? In their mind, that's how they win, quote unquote. And then Johnny is like the last person there, and Johnny is like the combo player. Johnny likes when things come together, and it's not so important whether they win or lose. They just want the thing to happen, right? Like they want to put Splinter Twin onto their Deceiver Exarch, and they want to make a million things. They don't really care if they win. They just want to make the Rube Goldberg device work. So how do I win? I would win by doing things my own way and then also doing well overall, right? So I would call myself like pretty casual competitive. I want to do well. I don't want to play like a garbage build, but I also want to do it in my own way. I don't just want to play the established best build. Because if you want to watch the established best build, there's other people, there's YouTubers, there's like other people on Twitch that you can watch who are doing that. I want to do well, but I also want to do well with memes. That's what I enjoy, right? So one of the builds that we played early on when I was just getting started out with Last Epoch was like this triggered lightning thing, hit things with Mana Strike and apply a Spark Charge. And then we're also going to use Mana Strike to do Zap, and Zap is converted to Lightning Blast, and Lightning Blast does this and also applies the Spark Charge and also triggers Enchant Weapon, and like all these like different things that are all happening at the same time. And I was like, that build's not garbage. We we could put static in that build because static is a core part of that build, and we could probably make that into a reasonable thing to hit enemies with. So we chose that as our starting point. We took Lightning Blast out obviously because it was banned at the tournament, and it was less bad than I thought it was going to be. I thought that build relied heavily on Lightning Blast, but because we didn't have Lightning Blast, we got to spec into both Flame Ward and Teleport instead of only specking into one of those things. So it's one of those things where, like, if EHG allowed us to spec into 6 skills, I would just grab everything, right? But because there's a limit on that, it kind of breeds creativity, right? So because you have picked bands, you get to not go with the build you planned out ahead of time and instead choose something else. So that's kind of where the build came from. It was the number 1 melee build, which was great. I can't imagine pushing past 200 on that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's really melee.
So I got to ask this, Perry, since you mentioned Magic the Gathering: green, black, white, red, or blue for your decks on average, or combinations. Which ones did you usually like to play the most?
So the last time that I played in paper was maybe the last time that I played in paper was at my marriage, at my wedding. And then before that was maybe 5 years prior. So like when I played Magic, it was like, well, if you like taking game actions and you like having fun, you're playing blue, right? So nowadays it's like it's a little bit more spread out. For a while there, green's color identity was to be better at everything than everything else. And yeah, that was called Throne of Eldraine for those of you paying attention. But these days, I would only be interested in playing like Cube, because I think like cubing with your friends is like the best experience that Magic the Gathering has to offer. If you don't know what cubing is, go look it up. It's the best.
It is the best way to play Magic.
Absolutely.
Perry is correct.
And it's free. Let's talk about that. But yeah, I mean, blue, because I like doing well and not having garbage cards in my deck. Yeah, it's good.
I used to play red/green decks because I liked them whenever they were like direct damage with big monsters. So you just pull out a big 7/7 with trample, and then they have to look at you and go, "Oh God, I have nothing to get rid of it." And then meanwhile, you're sitting there hitting them with lightning bolt, or you're tapping all of your mountains, tapping all of your forests, and then fireballing somebody for like 11 points of damage right to the face.
So do you think Grim Reaper is a Timmy, a Johnny, or a Spike? What do you think?
I am a Spike. But I got a story to tell you about Timmy. So there's another streamer who called Chart Hope, and he uses Timmy as basically he's basically the guy that does all the lead game design for any game. And the way that Timmy helps balance games is you take Timmy, you place him up at the top of the stairs, and you chuck him down. And if he grabs the railing and holds on that it's balanced, if Timmy makes it to the bottom of the steps, you got to rebalance the game.
Jeez.
I don't have any thoughts on this yet. I mean,
yet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Some of Chard's rants in his stream are epic, man. If you ever hear him rant about something being broken or not working correctly, his rants are epic in his stream, man.
They're great. Yeah, so you mentioned if we could take 6 skills, you would obviously just take, the Lightning Blaster, assuming it wasn't banned, right? I love that you mentioned that, because if you watch any of the like EHG dev streams, they talk about how that's how they want the game to feel. They want you to feel like your game, you have these 5 skills to spec in, and it's not quite enough. They want you to feel like there's a 6th skill that you really want, and then that limits you and makes you get creative with your build. They've talked about how the skills go to level 20, and how they considered 30 at one point, but then they thought 30 just makes it where it's easy to take all the nodes you want. So if we put it at 20, your choices actually mattered.
Yep.
So
it sounds great to me.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because it jogged my memory of like hearing Mike talk about that on the dev stream. Somebody was asking him why did they choose 20 skill points and skills, and pretty much what he's almost verbatim.
20 so that you feel good when you get a +1, +2, or +3.
Yep.
You don't want it obvious, yeah. I know there's some dissenters out there who think that the new idol system is bad. Saying that like it unfairly benefits 2x2 idols and punishes 4x1 idols, right? Because like one of those you can have 4 of, the other one you can only have 2 of them. But the change that was made it was in 08 too, right? The beginning of 08 was the new idol system.
Yep.
That changed it from like a normal 16, like a 4x4 square, into like this new thing, which is just like this garbage nonsense Tetris thing.
That has like a random square in the middle you can't use.
What an amazing change. It's so good. I really like it because it's awful. But I love it.
Yeah, like it makes you actually think about your idol choices now instead of just jamming whatever square shaped thing you have with all your best
no
idols.
Best to it. You just
Yep.
Yeah, and like to me, I think that's where game design is the most successful is when like you put a blockade in front of your players and make them find creative ways around it, but at the same time, it still allows them to do good stuff within it. It doesn't feel like you're like actively punishing them for playing the game necessarily. You're just making them approach the game in a slightly different way than they would want.
I'm waiting for EHG to send out like the Reddit post or the Twitter tweet where it's like, hey community, do you want to design the next idol slot? Send us your best piece of Tetris.
Oh man,
you're gonna see like wacky people like putting like all over the place.
Yeah, well, so somebody's gonna make like a zigzag, the little like zigzag like staircase piece. We're totally getting an idol shape like that. Oh my god!
I'm just saying that sounds like a good social media campaign to me. You know,
not
It'd be awesome to see the design though too. See how it comes out, because I mean, different types of creativity means different ways of doing it. So maybe it'll make it a lot more interesting, even more than they already have, by putting that one useless block in the center. Because I'll be honest with you guys, that screwed me up for like the first week and a half after it came out, because I was looking at the idols and I was like, I'm gonna fit my shit in there now. What is going on?
I was saying, like, I logged into my character with all my 4x1s and was like, wait. I was like, no, the square is awful. I hate this. And then, like a week later, I was like, hey, I actually think I really like this now, because now I'm actually like making choices with my idols and not just jamming these like 4 idols into this thing and calling it a day.
And when you get like the right idols that fit just right, and like you only have like one by one, like this one fits and this one, and like your brain just like starts getting bigger and bigger. Like, everything's turning out so well.
So good.
Oh man.
I said a while ago at the beginning of this that I've been poking around to like other people's Twitch streams, like seeing what they're up to. And one was like, I heard a worry twice from 2 different people that because their new player builds and they didn't follow a guide, because their build was good, they were worried that there weren't going to be enough like big brain builds, right? Like because their first build was good, they were worried that there wasn't going to be any longevity of the game. And like I started playing Last Epoch because someone in my chat told me to. There was like a downtime in PoE and they're like, hey, go play this game. I want to see your opinion on it. And like that was 3 months ago, right? And I want people to know, like, I guess like the primary audience of this stream is people who already like watch Last Epoch. But here's a soundbite for people in chat to tell other people, right? If you want a game where you can feel like your brain is big and you get to actually people and tell them that like, oh no, you got to see this little interaction here. If you like those kind of big brain builds, like Last Epoch has them. And I promise they're not all Doom builds. Some of them are non. It's fun. There's lots of moments where like you feel like things are putting together, like coming together, and it's non-obvious, and you feel like you want to explain it to a new person, or like you want to take your buddy aside and be like, "Yo, look at this thing I just found out," and that's great. That's the kind of like player growth that a game developer would want, and that's already in the game, which is just like 10 out of 10.
But now next patch changes that whole dynamic again once we get all those new items that we're going to get.
Good.
So
yeah,
which is going to be awesome. Are you looking forward to the squirrels, being able to play the squirrel build? Do you know about that, Perry?
Sorry, what?
Do you know about the squirrel build?
No, I don't.
Okay, so apparently Zizarin, one of the PoE streamers, created live on stream with the Last Epoch devs a unique item of his own, and apparently it turns your wolves into squirrels for the primalists. So you run around with a bunch of squirrels now. So, and it's apparently supposed to be like super OP, supposed to be really busted. It's going to be amazing. Apparently, that's going to be the new meta next patch.
And
So people are looking forward
what
to it.
mastery was that?
It was for, I think it was for the wolves. It was supposed to turn your wolves into squirrels for the primalists.
Primal, is that a new class? Are they just introducing that?
No, the primalist. It's been there.
I haven't.
There's a reason why you haven't played it.
The primal. Oh, sure, yeah.
The guy
who's got
Mike.
Leap. Sure.
The guy who looks like Mike from the dev stream.
Man, I'll do like 3 primalist builds in a row as soon as they buff Fury Leap. If I can click the Fury Leap button and not feel like I'm being punished, I'll do 3 builds in a row.
I hate Fury Leap with a burning passion, and Grim knows why, because he was in stream when it happened.
Oh, you mean whenever you jumped in that giant pack and got mollywopped for it?
Yes. I hate that. I hate that ability so much.
It feels like it was like the first skill added in the game. And it's like, man, like teleport is in this game, dash is in this game, lich is in this game. Like there's so many things that feel good, and you enjoy right clicking, and you enjoy using this ability, and you like leveling up this character because then you finally get to use your new gear that looks really cool. And Primalist, like the best end game base body armor for Primalist is like 3 sticks on your chest. Oh boy.
Don't we actually get the Primalist model rework in 8.3?
I think so, right?
No,
yeah,
it's Sentinel, isn't it? Sentinel?
No, Sentinel's coming later.
There's new artwork that they put out for Primalist that looks really good. So hopefully that translates in game as well.
Yeah, I asked them too about dreadlocks for the Primalist, because whenever I think of a Primalist, I think of a guy that's like grungy, dirty, hanging out with animals, can't have kempt hair, and he's got dreadlocks. You know what I mean? So hopefully, they said eventually maybe as like a cosmetic or something, like maybe you can like sit down in a barber chair like World of Warcraft maybe and get a hairdo done, put some dreadlocks on your Primalist.
I think Mike would look okay with dreadlocks. Sure, okay.
Well, the new model doesn't even look like Mike anymore. So even though Mike says it looks like me because it's a lot buffer now.
Pretty good Mike impersonation.
I gotta be careful, man. If I ever meet Mike in person, he might eat me or something. Be like, "Here, little guy, you look like a snack." Because you know I'm short. I'm only 5'6", so.
I'm a little bit taller than that. I feel like whenever we talk about height on my stream, it always turns out that like everyone in chat is just like an absolute giant. So me and all my mods are just like 6'5". You know, just 4, 6'5". Everyone's huge.
No, I tell everybody the truth. I'm 5'6". I'm a little shrimp. I've got small, tiny arms, small, tiny waist, but I got huge thighs and huge calves. I got calves that got calves, so I got good on the legs department. I never skipped leg day. I just need to start working out the arms and chest, and I'll be all right. All right, guys, that's about going to do it for us tonight on Last Week at Epoch. We'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. Perry, thank you so much for being our guest on tonight's episode. We appreciate you being here. This has been probably one of my favorite podcasts I have done so far, having you on here, and I'm just going to throw that out there. Even while it's being recorded live, don't care. It has been an absolute pleasure, and it has been fun to have you on here tonight. So thank you so much, sir.
Been great talking with both of you.
I will second Grim's assertion there. This has been a ton.
Yep. So from all of us here at Last Week of Epoch, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one.
I'll be good.